Now call to order the June 6th meeting of the Trails and Greenways Committee for Newtown Township. If we could start with roll call.
Anthony DeVincenzo,
Present.
Beth Donjicha, John Custer,
Here.
Joe Falcone,
Here.
Terry McCarthy,
Here.
Mark Carr here, Leah Archer, absent, Joe Kosciuszko,
Here.
Evan Pappas.
Here.
Okay, everyone, please take a moment of silence. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is the agenda for today's meeting. Hope everybody has an opportunity to review it. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Joe Kosciuszko. Do I hear a second? All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. No opposed. Agenda passes. Moving on to item 5, public comment for agenda items only. No public present. I don't think we did the email thing. We're good there. So move on to approving the minutes. So we didn't have a meeting last month due to attendance and some communication issues. So we're going all the way back to April. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the April meeting? Joe Kosciuszko, seconded by anybody? I'll second. All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, ayes have it, and the minutes from the April 4th meeting are approved. All right, moving on to new business. So the e-bike subcommittee update, I think because we didn't have last meeting and it was, so Joe, myself and Mark had met to kind of preliminarily discuss some of those ideas. Then we had a meeting immediately after that. And we talked about the solicitation, like a survey of some kind. And then beyond that, I can't remember honestly where we went. So I wanted to make sure it was on our agenda to kind of refresh since we missed the last meeting.
So I think the expectation we were supposed to come up with survey questions to discuss and then approve. That would be in that. I just been slammed.
Okay. So
I haven't even had a chance to look at it.
is it, so, okay, so when we're talking about, I don't know, I know you want to take a first stab at it, but you're busy, maybe Mark and I can also do it, and we'll just email amongst the three of us to get out that first draft, and then you can kind of distill it, considering how much research you had already done on the product, make it a little bit easier to lift on you.
Yeah,
That work?
I mean, I think it's generic. I don't think it's necessarily specific to e-bikes, but
No, it's not. I mean, we talked about it in context of a lot of the other stuff related, but yeah, that might be helpful.
Right.
And then once we do then get that, obviously, we come to a point where we could then either present it to the rest of the group and get additional comment and ideas. And then once at that point, we all kind of agree, yeah, this is a good set, then I'm assuming that's when we turn it over to who in the township would it be? Would it be the solicitor? I forget, sir. Start with you. Okay. And then in the past, sir, have we done things like this in the township where we would put out a public survey, and in what fashion does it go out? I'm sorry, I caught you with your mouthful.
That's okay. No, it's, we have done them. We've done them a couple different ways. I think we just need to figure out which direction we want to head with this. We've done e-surveys and they've worked pretty well, but you got to have a large enough population to do it. We've done them through the library. That's worked okay. That's also limited in the number of people that go to the library. If we were tying it with something else, we could do a couple things as well. We could potentially send it out as like a postcard and maybe have like a QR code that somebody would pull on or not pull on, but click on, and then they would get through the survey that way. We have mailed out, I've used, what's it called? Survey?
Survey.
No, it was not Survey Monkey.
I don't think he
I-
likes the monkey.
We used a survey group, I forget what it's called, Snap Survey, I think is what it's called, if I remember right. When we did the strategic plan. And so we designed it, and then it actually was a form that people were able to fill out, hard copy, was returned to us. And we were able to I was able to scan them, and as I scanned them, the survey actually read it, like it actually read people's responses and created the response that we needed. That is a possibility as well. You know, we just have to figure it out because there's cost to all of these. And so we just need to figure out like what kind of response we're looking for to get what you're doing. My guess is there's a lot of people that would potentially not fill it out. So like, who's the real target and how do we get it to that target audience?
Sorry, go ahead.
I think you actually use a QR code
Mhm.
and have it completely virtual.
Yeah.
And then that way that QR code can go on Facebook, it can go on whatever way we communicate. And then I don't know, do we ever do anything with Newtown Neighbors? Do they provide you guys with an ability to provide notice?
We have not at this point, but I mean, we might be able to do that.
What publication do you use for purposes of written notice?
Currently, right now, we're not using anything for written.
There is a magazine that is not the Bill Blaze magazine, not yours either, right? It's Newtown Friends.
Well, there's Newtown Friends. There's also one that's called, I think it's just called Newtown, maybe. That's being put out by Franklin Print.
Franklin is the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's quarterly. And I know the publisher, maybe he would let us, you know, if I wrote something for him, we could put in a survey and wrap it in with some I mean.
I would
goes
need
all
to
the
clear through the
houses.
board how we're going to do that if we're going to go outside of our normal way of doing it.
Either way, the QR code has at least the most scalability of it because you can put it, like you said, in many different fashions and we can get, so it depends. We could either use it again and give it to people at events and stuff on simple flyers. That way it would be easy, but
Farmers market.
yeah, or it could go in the newsletter, the social media page, whatever. So depending upon what you decide in the end, I'm going to ask a related.
How soon are you hoping to do that?
I don't know. I mean, realistically, I'll work on getting some questions that I have had about this tonight that we could possibly get in for the survey. And then Mark, let's say you and I target getting something to Joe by the end of next week, is at least preliminary questions. Joe can then take that. The goal would be by next meeting for the three of us to, you know, convene on, hey, this is what we think is like a good group. And then next meeting, bring it up amongst all of us to discuss and see if there's any additional input from the group. And then at that, in theory, we could say, oh yeah, we all agree, and then let's send it to you. So that would be the target.
So would it be appropriate to say that we probably, I mean, I would not want to send a survey out in August. I think that's not the best time with people being gone. I would hope that we would consider maybe doing it in September or October, if that makes sense. I don't know what you guys thought on that.
Our user group that we're trying to hit are the trail users, right?
Well,
Like for the most part.
no,
Okay, because I was gonna say just.
No,
the
we want to
QR
be
code and
equal
the
opportunity
trailheads
with
is
like
parks
concerned
and stuff like that.
citizens too.
Yeah, but if they're not,
Bless you.
Thanks.
I mean, ideally, like, we're getting the people that are impacted by folks riding.
Well, it's
e-bikes.
not just trails though, because if you look at
Big
where
roads
our
and stuff like that,
proposed
yeah.
bicycle routes are, they're on major roads.
Okay.
So that's where I think it should go to the whole population of the township, because other people have legitimate concerns. I think I shared with you a sketchy e-bike situation that I've seen now repeatedly. So,
Okay.
so I think it is important. We want it for a specific, like our inroad was because of the use on the
Yeah.
trails, but because the bike paths that we're proposing in the official, in the network plan, the open space network plan, are on public roads. And I think it does make sense to get it to as wide of an audience as possible.
That's cool. I mean, an easy lift, like I said, would be those trailheads and parks and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You like put a QR code there it can link to a free survey service or something like that, and, you know, you can print them in-house. It would be cheap and quick to at least get the ball rolling on.
So related to this, sir, I don't know how often the township has done this surveys. I didn't know if from a scalability and cost perspective, if there were other groups in the township like us, other committees and everything that would benefit if we had some sort of like yearly or bi-yearly survey period in which the township is trying to get public input, where you can almost bundle a bunch of different issues. That's a bigger idea, obviously,
Yeah.
not confined to this committee, but if there was already something in place,
There's not currently, we've used surveys on a very,
seldom.
yeah, seldom, and we've probably done it, I don't know, maybe a half dozen times over the last 5 years or so.
Gotcha.
And so, and we've varied how we've targeted. Like, one was the target audience was the entire township.
Yep.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you're hoping that this would target.
Mostly because we're talking about potential for future ordinance as it relates to, that's
Yeah.
another reason why I think it's important to broaden the scope on it.
Yeah, let's get it done. I'll get it before the board and then we'll look at the way we're gonna get it out.
Okay, I mean, the good news is that if we get this stuff mostly together for next meeting, then if we have the target of September, that gives you time, like you said, like with the board over, you know, the next couple of meetings, months, whatever, to actually discuss, so.
Yep.
All right. Joe, any other points of note on the e-bike? Anybody else from the committee would like to ask questions or
I
comments?
do
for
have
that?
a question about that. Once you write it,
Mhm.
are we allowed to post that on social media like the Newtown Township / Edgemont thing? They've got 11,000 members right
Yeah.
there. And that,
If we had the QR code in
The
theory,
QR
yeah,
you just throw it on all of these pages.
crowdsourcing essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the one thing we want to make sure is who's our target audience when you're trying to get feedback, because
Well, if you have people that put in their address
yeah.
specific, they have to be township residents.
Right.
Then that's a way of easily filtering with like SurveyMonkey or Google surveys, like a lot of them have that functionality. which is
Yeah.
nice.
And it could even go through church sites, because I've chatted about e-bikes with friends from the church I go to, and they're like, I love them. Lynn Coral loves them. And, you know, I didn't even know she never, it's there, that's good. But there's a lot of communities that would be appropriate to include. Sorry, go ahead.
HOAs too, like if they have their
Oh
own
my God.
bulletin. Well, I'm just saying, like, it's a way of, if you have that QR code as Joe recommended, which is, I still think just the best idea, because you can easily distribute that to so many different groups, subgroups, different forms of media. It makes it easy for that wide scale approach. The one thing that it does potentially exclude is anybody that is that technologically disadvantaged where they just can't do it.
well, what we would probably do is in the newsletter, we would put out if you'd like to take the survey in paper, we'll have paper copies at the library and at the township building and
That's-
allow people to come in and do those.
That's a good solution. Thank you.
And having directions, visual directions. We have QR codes at work, and there are definitely a segment of the population that they start taking a photo, they don't know to tap the little thing. So like having like visual directions would be helpful.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the thoughtful feedback. Okay, so this one is just, again, we haven't had another meeting. I know that not much traction has happened, but I just wanted to make sure, get up there to bring up amongst the group, Joe. So the zoning stuff, so the last, if you can refresh my memory, the last that anything had happened about that, because originally it was gonna be you, John, and I think,
Evan,
no, before that, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a complete blank already. Wow, that's.
well, I joined after
I
that
know that.
person left.
No, what I'm saying is, the specific zoning committee, you guys were gonna meet with the representative from the township, the zoning officer, but that never happened. And I don't know why or where it was left off or what we have to do to kickstart it again.
He basically he said that there's already provisions built in that he didn't need to talk to us about
Did you realize that it was also partly educational for us so that we don't run down bad pathways? Because we
I
don't,
didn't explain it.
we don't know, and it's not
Email I
easy for
sent
the
was
layperson to
pretty clear.
research or
Yeah.
understand.
I think the email I sent him was pretty clear, and he
Okay.
said that he would help us write an ordinance when we got there, but he didn't want to participate in coming up with ideas.
Not necessarily coming up with ideas, but
I
even
know,
from an
that's what he
education.
said, and he kind of shut it down, and he didn't want to be involved. So I thought he was pretty clear. I think you were on the email. If you want.
I was, I remember it was just a while ago, so.
Yeah,
just-
yeah, it was like 2 or 3 months.
It seemed to me, at least at that point, it seemed to me as a miscommunication where it was also supposed to be educational for you then to disseminate back to us because it's just not easy for us to understand it when you're lay people who have no real understanding of how zoning laws work.
Or myself too. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Like we want to do
I've
the
been
best.
covering zoning laws and I don't know what to mean.
We want to do the best for our committee, but I feel like many cases, we're relying solely on Mr. Neese, which means that the subcommittees and the other discussions that should happen, that don't need to happen in this form when you are brainstorming. You don't have the basis of knowledge and we don't want to take up an
Right.
entire public meeting and a lot more of your time without
Yeah,
Mr. Neese is for it. So that is frustrating. I don't know if you can help us, so.
Yeah, well, I guess what I want to understand is exactly what are you hoping to get?
Hoping to educate specifically the members of that.
About what
subcommittee
though?
About
What is,
what,
I mean, I think if you're broad in your statement, he's probably going to stay broad in his response. And so I think if there's something specific that you want to look at, zoning is I mean, our zoning book is this thick. And so if you're asking for him to respond to zoning related to trails, there's like lots of different areas to go to. So I think it would help if you are a little bit more specific of what you're trying to get to.
what I'm saying, it's very hard for us who are very uneducated in it to narrow something down because we don't know the basis of any of the zoning laws, don't understand them.
I don't agree with you. And I
Okay.
think we should meet and talk about what we want to accomplish through zoning. And you don't need to be an expert in zoning to understand what we're trying to accomplish. And once, we don't need to write technical language or anything like that. All we need to do is think about the things that this committee and this plan is trying to accomplish and what pieces of the zoning code could push us in that direction. I think I already have a good understanding
Okay.
of that. I don't need to meet with the zoning official to understand how the zoning code works. I think all we need to do is meet and come up with some ideas, not about specific changes to the code. I think that's probably too in the weeds for us at this point, but about some of the topics that we could get into in the zoning code and then have a more focused meeting at that point. I think we need to meet first, to broadly look at these topics apply to us. And we want to drill down on these, and then we can maybe try to have a focused meeting.
I think we as staff could provide guidance at that point much better. I think to go broad, I think the zoning code is too broad is what I'm saying. So
Yeah, no,
think-
I understand that. What I'm saying is you might know more about it. As this all started, I have no idea where to look in the zoning code to start. That's the point. So if you have a better understanding of it, then if you can lead that effort amongst your subcommittee, that would be very helpful.
Yeah,
Because we don't want to waste his time, and that was not the intention, but we also sometimes, I mean, I know personally, I'm doing my best to learn throughout this whole process.
so the other thing is after the zoning officials said that he, wasn't gonna meet with us about this,
Yeah,
I sent an email to just the subcommittee and said, let's schedule a meeting. I'm available these dates, these nights. No response.
Yeah.
So I see no progress in setting
Okay.
up a subcommittee meeting. Maybe we can try to set that up.
all right. So who is it? John, Joe, Evan, right? Okay. John, I don't know if you're at your office late anymore, but I don't know if you want to make that room available for like how we've done it in the past.
We could probably do that.
Okay.
Used for everything else, so it might as well be for this.
In the past with the other subcommittee stuff, we've met with John in his office, right there on St. Albans Circle. So it's a good nice local meeting spot. All right. All right. Anything more on zoning? So. All right, action item is you guys are gonna have a meeting and then we'll recap at another time whenever you're ready. I'm not gonna put it in the agenda until Evan says, hey, yeah, we have something to talk about then. Okay? Next item, 7.3, discussion and possible action, trail walks and events. So first up is Garrett Williamson recap, which I was very glad I got to join because I hadn't been in a while, but I'll let Terry take you through.
It was fun.
It was.
It
was
was a
really nice.
beautiful day and the Birdwalk folk were there and we were there. And so they went in one direction, we went another and we walked faster. So we intersected with them in certain spots, got lots of great photos, lots of good feelings. And then it was all done. And then at the very end, I'm standing there talking with Carol and a couple of the people from Garrett Williamson and this couple comes walking up. We're here for the bird walk. I mean, we're here for the trail walk. And we were like, wait a minute, it's not, it's over. And they looked very disturbed. They had evidently seen it posted a long time ago when Giselle was at Garrett Williamson. And she had left and left that up for a 10 o'clock hike. And so I took them on another hike. And it turns out they were both IBMers and gave a nice donation to Garrett Williamson. After it was over, we had a good time. So that was a real positive day.
We got a lot of like questions from township residents, again, just like we always do about what we're doing and everything. And so we can only hope that that continues to, what we're telling, if residents are showing up, they bring more people and at least talk about it potentially. And the one thing I hammered is, paying attention to the supervisors meetings, what's on their agenda, so you can show up when some of these things do enter their domain and come up for votes. And that's when we need the public support really. It's nice to come to the walks. We like it, you like it, but we want you to go there.
I want to point out that I did also post this in SEPA, the Southeastern Pennsylvania hiking group. And we had two people from SEPA. One was from Wilmington. And there's lots of them for the next piece, which we're doing with Connect Edgemont at 5:30 a.m. on what is it? The day?
Saturday, the 20-something.
22nd.
Yeah.
There's already 63 reactions to that post in the website I just mentioned, the Newtown Square /Edgemont. And, there's people who are just thrilled to get up and be an early bird and go for a walk before the traffic starts, when it's really peaceful and beautiful. And so that's going to be a great walk. I didn't know something and Annie Thorne told me about it. Evidently, Willistown has a some sort of ordinance or just scenario where they don't want more than 25 or 35 attendees at an event without some sort of a certification from the township or some license or something. And I was like, I have never heard about that. I've walked all over Willistown and there's two of us, two groups here. So if we each bring, 25, then I think it'll be understandable, but I'm happy to apologize or look into it. She said, I won't worry about it this time. But also I will point out that, we don't have that nice thing to say, I will not sue you if I fall down, hiking. They do. Connect Edgemont does have that. And I would like to have that one of these days. Don,
Where's that at, sir? With the solicitor?
It's under review. It's under review.
but that's our next one. Oh, and we are 3 away from 1,000 members in that meetup group.
Wow.
So somebody here who doesn't belong yet, if you would join, we'll hit it.
So Terry, other events then? Do we have anything else? Yep. Okay.
Anybody with ideas, happy to work with you. I like doing them with other groups, like Kathy Cavalier has asked me to do it with the Historical Society, and we have talked about that other place across the street from the paper mill house, because we can't go towards the Willows, but maybe, and I reached out, I haven't heard anything back yet from the Brandywine Conservancy.
Because of the construction on the bridge.
Yeah, we can't go that way,
Right,
but there
right.
is a place called Waterloo Preserve.
Mhm.
And you can actually walk all around in there and then cross over and end up at the paper mill.
Okay,
But I don't, you know, that they have a membership requirement, and I wondered if they would waive it just for once. You know, just to let us come and look, and it might generate more members and so forth. So that would be a neat walk. With a different, that's not Radnor, you said, that's Easttown?
That's Easttown.
Waterloo. Yeah, is there a Radnor, counterpart to us? Or Easttown that we know of or have communication with?
Not that I know.
Okay. All right. That's a good idea then. We'll have to reach out to Waterloo and see like who to talk to. Try that out, but that's a good idea because then again, you're connecting part of our township across, so that's good. All right. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions on? Okay, next item. Land grants and easements. I brought this up just because of some conversation with a township resident about. Really, sir, I wanted to ask you, and then let anybody else kind of chime in on the conversation about. In a scenario in which, because we're talking about land acquisition for the trails and easement acquisition for the trails, right? Like you had said it many meetings ago, where one of the hardest parts is you have to actually find a way to get the ability to put some of these trails, and you need the agreements, you need the actual. So if you're in a situation where you have, I know, John, we've talked about DeVincenzo in the past or whatever, and a township resident landowner wants to communicate or actually thinks about granting the land or getting under an agreement. Have we actually at the township done it prior? And can we learn anything from that? So for either a park or like the Goshen Trail, I don't know if that was SAP. Is there something that this committee could learn from some way the township has done it pre-existing? Of like actually accepting, land as a gift from a resident or a property owner or whatever, or some sort of written easement. Is there something specific, like an actual document that we could learn from that the township has already done, so it's proof positive?
Yeah, I mean, we have a variety of types of agreements / easements that we have depending on the situation. In some cases, we have agreements that give us not only the easement, but the responsibility to maintain a certain portion, which is more like what's going on at the Goshen Trail. The Lister Trail is, it's an easement and we maintain the trail, but we don't have any, we're limited to the trail pretty much. We don't have any other responsibility. So yeah, we have multiple.
So there's no standard is the bottom line. It's kind of.
I mean,
case by
I've
case.
never, I think it's almost always kind of one of those things that when we get down to it,
Okay.
it becomes, I mean, we do easements all the time for things like sewer lines, stormwater lines, those kind of things. And those are pretty standard boilerplate, but
From the
even
legal
those,
perspective,
even those get very specific, and you have to have a land survey done that comes out and says it's going to be from this spot to this spot to that spot to this spot, and they're all, it's all done by land surveys and all the points, and it's so many feet from here and so many feet from there, and it's all of those kind of things. And so that, that's usually an attachment that goes to it. And then the easement, it varies. So in some of our easements, they're fee simple and they're for $1, and other easements, there's other requirements. So to say that, like, I can give you an example, to say this is how it's done. I mean, I could share with you some of the different ones we've had.
that would be helpful.
But they're, But I think they would be a little bit different for a lot of what we have is for stuff that's underground that you don't see.
Mhm.
And so, we have fewer things where it's like the trail on the Goshen Trail, unless you can think of something different. I mean, Drexel Lodge is a perfect example of an agreement that we have with the municipal authority. And I think it's a 50-year agreement, if I recall right, for us to use Drexel Lodge. And so, I mean, there's like, we have different agreements and they just vary depending on what
So the context of why I bring it up is resident asked a question about, hey, I don't know, but I'm thinking about doing this where I would give you a spot to be able for trail access. But I want to learn a little bit more first, and they're very hesitant, rightfully so, because you never
Sure.
really know. And I said, okay, I said, let me think about it a little bit. Let me try and poke around. And then what I'm trying to figure out is if that question, this one didn't happen. But if that question ever occurs again, I'd like to be as prepared as possible to not give bad information. I know very much so that I could never say, or any of us could say, oh, this is definitely how it's going to go down. But to be
Well,
a
I
little
think
bit
it's-
better of like, all right, this is how the township had handled something similar in the past. Maybe this is what it's go about. Let's put you in contact with Mr. Neese and start it, but to give them the confidence of coming forward to the township to start those type of, I guess the term is negotiations. You don't want to scare them away. You want to give them some little bit of information to make it still attractable and make them feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, this makes sense.
I would be hesitant to hand out any one of our agreements for
Okay.
that purpose. But what I would say is, I think we can put together what the process would be.
That would be
And,
great.
and that's simple, or relatively simple. And just a kind of a quick overview, the process, if somebody came forward and said, we're willing to allow for there to be a trailhead or a trail connection across our property, we could come up with a thing that basically said, here are the steps. And I'm not going to give them all right now, but I'll give you a couple just to have an idea. But, we would have to do a survey to determine, obviously determine the location, have that done. We would get the attorney involved to write up an agreement between us and the landowner. We would work at making sure that there was insurance coverage on our part for them. I mean, there's lots of steps that we would want to take to make sure that those things are done and that takes care of and hopefully protects the landowner as much as possible if they're willing to do those things.
That would be very helpful, though. Just a very simple cookie cutter. Again, there's no non-committal, but that would be very helpful, at least. So if this question ever does come up again, to any one of us, and we are out there saying, hey, we're doing this volunteer at the township, this is what we want to do. And someone says, hey, you know what? My mom is passing away, she's passed away, the property we have, it looks like it's on your map. And you know what? I think it's a good idea. I'd like to do that, but I'm a little bit hesitant. Because it's so different, so new, that would be very helpful, even if it's not exact, it doesn't matter.
And I think the best thing really is for you to refer folks to us, so that we can walk them through the process. That is really, if that's what they want to do, that's
know.
the best thing.
I'm trying to make sure, because
Because what I don't want to have happen, and I want to be clear, because when we do this, I don't want you to inadvertently say something that puts you in a spot or puts the township in a spot or them in a spot that they're committing to, they think they're listening and taking something for what it is, because there's a lot that we would have to go through to make sure we do that right.
that's why I'm bringing this up now. This is the first time that ever happened, and I wanted to be, I mean, I know from dealing with stuff professionally, but I want to make sure that all of our committee members, if they're in that position of representing the township, know, generally speaking, this is what we want, this is all we could say. But I know that a lot of people are not in my backyard. If we get anybody that does actually say, you know what, maybe in my backyard, but I'm concerned, you don't want to scare them away. And quite frankly, coming directly to you might be a scarier option if we don't give them any information. So I want to make sure the information is vetted by you. And that's why I'm bringing it up.
Well,
Right,
correct me if
that's-
I'm wrong, it's gonna have to go through the township solicitor. And then
Well, it's gonna-
go to outside counsel and outside counsel's gotta draft up something specific.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's gonna go outside counsel to be reviewed, and it's also gonna have to go before the Board of Supervisors for review, because we don't ever, I don't have the authority
Yeah.
as the township manager to enter into an agreement for land or anything that involves that kind of thing that binds the township in any way. That's only done by the 5 Board of Supervisors. And so, frankly, and I don't want to say this in such a way, but, you know, if somebody isn't willing to come and have the conversation with us because of that, then they're probably not going to go very far anyhow, because it is all going to be through the staff and the third-party folks to get us there. It is going to be that.
I think that people are nervous when they've never done something before. And that's the main thing, is just making them feel comfortable with coming to your doorstep. That's what, that's the.
I think what can be said is this township staff has done this for a variety of kinds of different things.
Mhm.
And that's what they are used to doing. And the best thing that I could tell you is you need to reach out to them. If you'd like me to make the connection, I'll make the connection for you and we can get the process started.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions regarding this? Because it's not a topic that we've directly addressed in any meetings before, so we never had a chance for open forum and questions regarding it. But again, it was strictly situational, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't ever saying anything wrong, so that's why I brought it.
Have we actually done this before for a trail?
Goshen Trail, I don't know, sir. Is that one of them?
Well, Goshen Trail and Lister Trail are both that. Trying to remember if the Presbyterian Church's trail is just, they just put it in as in lieu of the sidewalk, and so I don't think it's listed that way. I just really think those two are the main two right now. Yeah, I was gonna say, most of them are on township property.
What about the Bishop Hollow Trail from the Campus Boulevard section? Is that?
There is an agreement with the property owner of 7 Campus Boulevard for the connection from when it leaves township property and goes to Campus Boulevard. You're right, there is an agreement there. I mean, we do it, you know, as the opportunities come. And, you know, we've been negotiating with different property owners over those kind of things for the last several years as they come in to do different things, whether it's put in sidewalk or the property on Sawmill that just recently subdivided into 3 different subdivisions. We've got a trail easement along that property for future. So if whenever we want to connect to the Willows, we'll be able, not Willow, Skunk Hollow isn't, we'll be able to connect to Skunk Hollow. So we're doing that as we go along. We're making it part of land development. And so we're, you know, trying to make sure that where we can, we do it ahead of time. And then hopefully we're going back and getting a piece and not trying to get the whole thing. And, you know, when you're trying to go over 25 properties, it's way more difficult than if you're going over a single property. And if you got all your neighbors have done it, it's really easy to say, let's go to the next step, but those kind of things. And I'm having conversations with other property owners as well who may consider it at some time in the future, not today, but in the future.
I was just gonna say that Willistown is incredible at featuring people who contribute land to their preserves. I mean, they've got a magazine, they've got a ton of money, but they're always talking about the next one, like now they have a 90-acre one. So if we wanted to market this idea, that it's great.
Trust, or is that affiliated with?
Willistown Conservation Trust, WCT, is a separate, I think.
It's it's
Yeah.
not part of like the township.
No,
I
no.
remember Mr. Meeson mentioned about like weirdness about like accepting donations for the township, like from a financial perspective, right?
Well, you can take, I mean, the Williamstown Trust is a separate
Yeah.
piece. I mean, that's separate. I mean, we can do donations. We're just always careful how we do donations, you know, in that we want to make sure that people understand that it's not a replacement for taxes. It's, you know, there's certain things we have to go through and make sure everybody's on the same page with when we do it.
But that was my thought. If you do have, it doesn't set a precedent from what you were saying. And so if you wanted to feature that as a neat thing to do, it makes for a great marketing piece, down the pipe, not any other topic.
All right, anything else? All right, moving on. Discussion possible action for social media posting for June. So we were discussing briefly before the meeting. Joe's, it did not make it on the social media page that I saw, but it did make it in the township newsletter. So that's good. So the photo, the write-up, great job. Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't know if that was an intentional choice or accidental of why it ended up there, not the other. Either way, it's positive. So I'm glad it got in. June, I don't think we actually signed anyone who was next. Who hasn't done one yet? Has everyone done one?
I have not,
Yeah, I thought you did one about falcons or birds of prey, no?
don't think so.
Okay, all right, John. You up for it? You got too much in there. You gotta pick one topic.
I'm a
though.
good deal under 100%, but I'll try to do it, you know.
Yeah, well, we'll help. But yeah, if you wanna, even if you just wanna, like, somebody else can draft it for, if you wanna give them the ideas and give them some of the history or whatever, because you got too much between natural and township history and
Yeah.
this initiative, so
Okay.
Beth, any jump starters
For June?
for
Oh,
John,
gosh.
maybe?
National Great Outdoors Month. World Bicycle Day, I think we just missed that. There's National Trails Day, there's World Environment Day, there's International Men's Health Week, first day of summer, Juneteenth, Father's Day. So yeah, there's some that you could make a spin on.
Could you send that to me?
Yeah, and then, John, if you wanna like formulate just a few ideas or something, I could always help draft it up,
Okay.
get it together, and Terry's volunteer as well. We know how good Terry is at pulling that stuff
Scribbling.
together.
Author.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, any other comments on that? Nope. All right, on to old business. Sir, is there any update on the Meadows Preserve parking lot?
We're continuing to work on it. We are getting ready to submit back to PennDOT again for the delineators. And George's team has been out to the area and probably will start clearing sometime in the next month, just to start getting us moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Okay, and then the monthly review of the open space network plan. So this, just a coincidence, securing trail easements. Going back to our just brief conversation earlier. So I don't want to go too far into it, obviously, because we already kind of really delved into it pretty deep with the conversation, some of the questions there. But the very first line is most private landowners are reluctant. So so in the context of the recent happenings is get a resident that is like thinking about it. Got to do everything we can to find a way to help them down that path and ultimately get them to where they feel comfortable crossing the threshold of the township building and talking to people that have actually done it and can help them through the process. So you already, Mr. Neese, addressed a lot of it, like limit to liability of, liability exposure and everything, and coming up with those agreements. And it's good that the township does seemingly have such a wide variety of different aspects of which they've done something similar. So it doesn't seem like there's anything that would catch anybody off guard in that. So I don't want to go too deep into it because we already have, but does anybody have any comments or questions? Just on that in general. So again, always trying to every month come back to that plan to keep us on target, on mission for what this committee is about. And this just so happened to be the next thing that I had not covered yet. Okay. All right, thank you. I don't know why social media is twice. I must have screwed that up when I got it to Jamie, so. Twice. So nothing there, no public comment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
we're gonna hold this
No,
up for
you're
just 1
good.
second. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 2nd, because the 4th is the Thursday. So I just wanted to point that out, and I didn't know if anyone was
yeah.
gonna be around to see if we actually have enough people to do that meeting.
That's a good question, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, I'm around, but I don't know, everybody's got vacation plans or whatever, so.
I'll be on a flight.
Light, you're here, I mean, I would say put it up to, do you just want to do a simple vote if you want to have one? I don't know if there's any other topics other than what we had discussed. That would be the one major thing is we want to get that forward, so we do give the township supervisors and Mr. Neese enough time to think about those questions and get that survey stuff pulled together so they can be ready for September. So I'd still like to have one if we can.
When's our meeting with township supervisors?
You mean the other one?
Yeah.
The 18th? Unrelated to any of this, so.
Right, I'm just trying to figure
Right,
out.
is it the 18th?
Well-
18th and then the 26th. We have, the
Committee of
Chair,
committees,
yeah.
or chair, yeah.
The only other thing that I would think of is for new business, we should probably have something strategic, like long-term to work on. And then the second piece would be maybe some other type of low-hanging fruit.
So like add into the regular agenda.
Yeah.
All right, so. So I,
Signage, I know that's something we've been talking about for a long time.
all right, so. I'm just gonna put this, normally I do have a thing for recommendations for the next meeting, so I'll just kind of. Do that, Mark, if we can add like a number 11 or something, or bump down German, put that as a new number
Because
10.
we can't have strategic conversations unless we put them on the agenda. And we can't have them individually or like with, in a quorum or whatever, because of the Sunshine Act.
The long-term strategic goals and then the low-hanging fruit stuff.
I would offer to strategically say we should have more walks. Because, I'm doing them once a month for several years, and you get people interested and they come, but then they sort of fall off but they want to have friends, so they join a whole bunch of groups. But if we had a standard walk, a township walk, like every other week somewhere, it'd be a neat kind of thing. You could also have a little activity. I know they do stuff at Drexel Lodge a lot now, and maybe we could say, we'll do a walk before that starts or something. Don't they have like concerts and so forth?
They got the free yoga, not free yoga and it just started, right?
Free yoga?
Yeah. I just saw Leonard post about it the other day.
So that's
Wednesday?
my strategy,
Wednesday
get more
nights.
walks. So join with other organizations, right? So if that's, what's his name?
Evan.
Waddle, no,
Evan,
golly, what's his
Radnor
name?
Trail.
He's in charge of the
Radnor
Parks and Rec. Starts with a W?
You're talking about Wade?
Wade.
Wait,
Greenway.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so, he would be amenable to that probably if I just reached out. I mean, I'm not the person who crosses over groups though. You
Why
guys
not?
are. I
There's
do
not-
it
there's
anyway,
no-
so.
I mean, I'll do it if you want, but there's no restriction on any of us from that perspective. I mean,
Well, if it's a walk, I'll reach out just because.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's. Please don't, and don't anyone in this group ever feel like you can't do that, because we do it for, in the actual context of those committee meetings and stuff. And that's supposed to generate stuff, but there's no way that it should be limited to that.
I remember you used to, or you did do some community chats over at Whole Foods. I went to one years ago. Do you still do any of that? Like you let folks just come and talk with you?
We have not done that since going back before COVID. Kind of
Wow.
COVID stopped that. We haven't picked it back up since.
What was it, like community talks?
The prior chair of the board and myself would go out and we would be usually about once a quarter, I think it was, or once every couple of months. And we would be just available for conversations, sit down conversations. And we used to do it in a variety of locations. Whole Foods was one of them. When Panera was in town, we did it there a couple times. We did it at the coffee shops. We would just go, typically it would be in the morning and we would be there for an hour and just let people come up and ask us any questions they had. And sometimes they were really well attended. And, you know, we'd have maybe up to 10 people. I would say towards the end, it was, sometimes it was just the two of us, but sometimes there'd be like one or two others. And they would stop in quickly and then move on.
Well,
The
if we did
current
that-
chair and I have chosen not to do it right now, but I mean, it's not that it couldn't happen again.
It could happen on a walk, is where I'm going with that. Like they could walk with the township.
What are they called in the National Park Service? The ranger talks? Like that.
Future talk, yeah.
I know
Great
somebody who
Steve.
loves to talk, so I'm sure he would be glad to do that if he has time.
That was what I was gonna say. It's not like he is especially shy at any of the public events, talking with the residents anyway, so.
I think we've chosen to just to tackle it a little differently because we've been in more places.
Yeah.
You know, we're often at the farmer's market and things like that. So I think we've just
Yeah, that was
tackled
great.
it. I think we tackled it a little differently that way.
Yeah, it's definitely available, to say the least, you know, for conversations. That's good. Okay. All right, so Joe noted, so long-term strategic goals, at least always have that as an agenda item that we're hitting, and low-hanging fruit. And so that way we're always at least having a placeholder to then have those discussions about it. And in the immediate future, we have the signs is definitely one of the low-hanging fruit ones, and then long-term strategic goals, we very soon can bring up the next stuff. So, okay, that's good. Do I hear a motion to adjourn now, unless Beth wants to remind me of something else I missed?
No, we should adjourn.
Okay.
So I'm moving.
Motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Evan. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. No opposed. Ayes have it. All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.